Streaming. And what's up? And welcome to another live stream with Gizmo Slip Tech. I'm here with Tom Fichtner.
Fichtner. Yes.
Fichtner. He's the product manager for XMG for the NEO lineup, and he's got a bunch of products for us to check out today. We're going to look at the laptop lineup for XMG, as well as the Key 18 Pro.
That's right.
A new 18-inch chassis from Clevo that they'll be selling, or their sister company will be selling for us. So we're going to do a breakdown of the NEO, all the new features, what's going to be released in 2025, including the Intel and the Ryzen chips, and then we've got the Key 18 Pro, and we're going to take the bottoms off of the XMG NEO 16 as well as the Pro 18, and then we've got the EVO 14 and 15 also to look at. They're more portable Ultrabook style laptops, and so it's pretty fucking awesome. Or I just said pretty freaking awesome. Sorry.
That's right.
Yes.
Live from Las Vegas, by the way.
Live from Las Vegas. So we're at CES 2025. I'm really excited. So what's up, and welcome everyone to the live stream. I want to make sure that we're good to go. We are live.
We're live.
We are live with an excellent connection. So excellent. Well, it says only 2 people are on, so I want to make sure that...
That's my mom and my best friend right now.
We should be good. Okay, I see 3 people. People will hop in. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead. First up, we're going to take a look at the laptop lineup for XMG. And so this is the EVO 14, 15, XMG NEO, and we've got the existing lineup from 2024. So which laptops are going to continue, which laptops are going to keep selling, all of that. So
right.
Go ahead. I'll let you take over, Tom, for a little bit.
Okay. Well, you're seeing our XMG roadmap right now. It is CES in Las Vegas. We're launching together with Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA. Everyone has new chips to offer. First, it's Intel Core Ultra Series 2, also called Arrow Lake, launching here in XMG NEO 16 with the Ultra 9 275HX. That's a 24-core CPU. And this comes with the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5090.
So one question I had that you might be able to answer a little bit better, maybe not, but just curious about it. I noticed that Intel went with 24 cores, 24 threads.
That's right.
This year.
Yes.
What do you think is the reason they went with 24 cores, 24 threads instead of 24 core, 32 threads?
Right.
With hyper-threading on the 8 performance cores last year. Do you understand what the difference is there?
Well, what I understand is that enabling hyper-threading in hardware requires extra silicon to have that parallel computing in each core. And since you now have so many physical cores, 24 real cores, there's not so much need and demand anymore, because not all the workloads can be parallelized into do you need 48 threads running side by side? Hyper-threading really helps with stuff like Cinebench and Blender, but when it comes to gaming, it's all about single or just a few cores, top performance. And removing hyper-threading has helped Intel to increase the efficiency of the cores and also increase single core performance. So yeah.
So basically, by removing hyper-threading, we're going to have an increase to single-threaded performance in particular.
Right.
For games, because a lot of games, probably 70% of games still just use 1, maybe 2 cores. And then a lot of the new modern games that are more complex start leveraging multiple cores, 3, 4, up to 8 cores.
They use more
sometimes.
cores, but there's always one thread that's the main thread, and that's the one that can bottleneck you, especially with 1% lows, right? Right, and that's the one that's been optimized. And
Makes
also
sense.
Efficiency when it comes, even in a multi-core workload on mixed core, general Windows, Office work stuff. Sacrificing hyper-threading allows you to do the same work with less power, meaning you can have more battery life and potentially lower temperatures.
Okay, so I think I'm really interested to try the new Intel Core Ultra 7 275HX. These names are getting incredibly complex for AMD and for Intel. I liked when I could say i9 1400HX. I don't know, that just seems roll off the tongue a lot easier.
It's the Core Ultra 9. That's all you need to know. Or maybe if you want to be fancy, the Ultra 9HX.
Yeah, well the thing is, there's a big difference between H and HX because the number of cores are different between those two, but they're both Core Ultra 9. So the HX is actually very important when you're looking at the spec sheets. Okay, so this is the roadmap. We've got 3 new laptops from XMG, and then we've got the Key 18 Pro from
Schenker,
Schenker.
which is the second brand in our company, not a sister company, but we have like XMG as the consumer and gaming brand, and Schenker for workstations, commercial, business customers.
Okay, so interesting. So you guys are going for the Pro 18 is more for business customers than gamers, or is it also going to appeal to gamers too? Do you think?
Well, what's special about the Key 18 Pro is that it has 4 memory slots, so it allows up to 192 gigabyte of memory, or even maybe soon 256 gigabyte. And that's a feature that is, of course, more important for workstation users, for people who need who do video editing or machine learning, AI development. But the trade-off is that if you add more slots for memory, you kind of decrease the maximum potential memory speed.
Yeah.
So it's great in capacity, but somewhat limited in speed. And that is and memory speed is important for gaming, especially like CPU bottleneck games also require low latency and high memory speed.
Do you think that having 4 SO-DIMM slots improves gaming performance potentially?
Not at all.
2 slots is more optimal?
2 slots is better, it's more optimal. With the 4 slots, you don't get an extra channel. It's still a dual channel, if you want to say like this. You cannot say it's quad channel because DDR5 has 2 channels per module. So, but adding more slots does not add more parallel bandwidth. It's only about increasing capacity.
Okay. All right. So if you, another potential application is virtual machines or needing to run many different games. Like some people try to like, I don't know, one of my viewers I know tries to run like 10 copies of the same game. Of course. Mining stuff in some like MMO or something like that.
Ah, okay. So they do this for real, like for a certain profit.
Yeah, for like they're using this to profit. So they need to have lots of memory because they need to have 8 or 16 gigs for each VM.
Get the Key 18 Pro. We offer up to 192 gigabyte at least.
Okay, so so those are the 4 laptops we're going to talk about today and break down. See, the XMG NEO 16 is your guys' flagship for today. Let's talk specs. All right, so the NEO 16, we've got the specs pulled up for the live stream. 16-inch, huge change, mini LED. 1,000 nits display. You can tell I'm getting excited. Wow. Because I'm stoked. You guys are actually going to be able to really compete with the more premium features that a lot of the other brands have had for a couple of years now.
That's right.
So I really like that.
Yeah, like brighter screens were one of the most asked feature that we were kind of lacking in the past. So having a mini LED option is a great, upgrade for us. It's not the standard panel. We will still offer it with a more like IPS 500 nits panel.
Right. So the panel we actually have in front of you is the 500 nits 100% sRGB panel.
Right.
And then there will be a second panel you can get that's a 300 hertz, 1600p, 1000 nits. I'm assuming that's in HDR mode.
That's HDR mode.
And probably more like 600 nits in SDR mode, something like that.
I'm not absolute expert in HDR. The thing is, you can achieve 1000 nits if you make the whole screen white. So that means it's also 1000 nits in non-HDR. Am I correct?
Okay, so yeah, if you can do the whole screen white and still get 1000, then yeah, that would be SDR, I think.
That's right.
So interesting. That's very bright then.
Yeah.
That's like blinding. Like it's like looking into a flashlight.
Oh no, you get used to it. Do you want to switch the screen?
But we also, what's on the next tab?
No, I mean the camera.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Let's keep talking specs actually.
Okay. So, I was going to talk about 100% DCI P3 color gamut as well. So the last Neo 16s were not as optimal for content creators or people that love high color gamut displays, right? Because they didn't have 100% P3.
Right.
And now we've got 100% P3. We got it bright enough.
Yes.
We got it 300 hertz refresh rate too.
Yes.
That is also huge because that actually outshines a lot of the competition that is primarily doing 240 hertz.
That's right.
So there's very few that do 300 and QHD in the same. So I really, really like that. That's taking it up to another level.
And with RTX 50 series, and you enable your upscaling and frame generation, you're gonna need those 300 hertz.
Because you're gonna have 3 times more generated frames to deal with.
Your FPS are gonna be over 9,000. I've seen the keynote with Jensen Huang. Performance is through the roof.
Oh my! So we've got for the So let's talk GPUs and the Neo 16.
Right.
It starts at a 5070. Is that right?
Or 5070 Ti.
So Ti.
With this launch, yes.
And then we've got a 5080.
That's right.
And a 5090.
That's right.
So there'll be 3 GPU options that you can get this marketed with at the beginning.
Yeah.
And can you focus there, Kai? There you go.
We have an assistant cameraman.
Yeah, so we got some help today. That's good. And I'll show you the specs one more time so we can get through all of these. So Core Ultra 9 275HX, 24 core, 24 thread, 36 megabyte smart cache.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Just to interrupt, Kai, could you also focus back on us while we show the specs? You can just switch in between. When there's something interesting to show on the laptop, you zoom in. Otherwise, show our faces. People want to see that human interest with Brandon and Tom from XMG right here from CES. Let's go.
So the Core Ultra 9, do you know what the TDP range will be on that yet?
Well, officially it's 55 watts as usual. That's the guaranteed spec. I think we're going to be way above 100 watts even with air cooling if you run a CPU only workload, and with water cooling, I'm thinking over 140 watts. Like in last year we were running a 130 watts stable, and the new thermal system is improved. Both air cooling and water cooling is more efficient. There's more oomph to the whole system. Okay, so
and then later this year, the plan is to do the 9955X 3D at some point.
It's not too far away. So at CES, we've launched XMG NEO with Intel only because Intel's samples were earlier, and also the embargo time is more clear. With AMD, they're having just launched a Fire Range, the 9000HX series again.
They're just announcing it, saying we're going to be making this thing
just a few days ago, and I think they said first half this year. First, there will be the Fire Range with 16 cores, 32 threads, and then a few months later, maybe 2 or 3 months later, the same kind of CPU, but with X3D, with 3D cache.
Right, and see, the great thing about the 3D cache with the X3D is that games love that. Like especially ones that need to use a lot of different assets quickly and rapidly. It can really improve 1% lows and increase FPS when CPU bound. For certain titles, not going to help in graphically bound games, but for certain games, it could make a massive difference, maybe like Counter-Strike 2, for example, or other esports games in particular, really can benefit, I think, from the X3D. But we actually have to get testing with the Core Ultra 9 275HX and the 9955HX 3D when they come out to really figure out which one's going to be the best. So I want to be clear that we don't know for sure which one will be the best, but I really, really appreciate that you guys are putting the best of AMD and the best of Intel together at some point this year so that consumers can choose.
Exactly, that's the plan. So the AMD version of XMG NEO has not been announced because we're also kind of thinking, should we give it like a slightly different name, maybe 16A for AMD? It sounds a bit lame. But we aim for feature parity, meaning that we will offer the AMD version with all the 3 NVIDIA top GPUs. We will offer it with the 500 nits and the 1000 nits mini LED panel. We will offer it, it will be also with up to 96 gigabyte of memory. There will be a Gen 5 SSD slot on both Intel and AMD. The only sacrifice we have to make with AMD Fire Range, at least, is unfortunately that AMD Fire Range does not have a native USB 4 support on the chipset. So in order to get USB 4 with Fire Range or Dragon Range earlier, is to put in a dedicated Thunderbolt controller on the main board, which is very space intensive, cost intensive. So it's not something that's going to happen in this upcoming launch. But if you do not need to run like a very powerful docking station with like loads of ports and multiple external SSDs, and if you do not plan to run an external
8K monitor?
No, 8K monitor is no problem because XMG NEO has DisplayPort 2.1 support. We have a mini DisplayPort output that is directly.
What about 8K 240 hertz though?
That is not even a thing, Brandon. Are you from the future? No.
Okay, but if you, I mean, I have seen scenarios like there's currently a Samsung G9 monitor, Neo G9, that has it's 8K by 2K resolution, 240 hertz.
8K by 2K, is that like
it's half of an 8K at 240 hertz. and you need DisplayPort 2.1
We got that.
in order to be able to output to it.
Okay. Well, DP 2.1, as I like to call it, is a new standard feature in NVIDIA RTX 50 series. So if any brand sells a laptop with an RTX 5070 Ti or upwards, it is mandated to have DP 2.1, no matter if it's Intel or AMD.
Out of a USB-C port typically?
It doesn't
or
matter.
Thunderbolt?
It can be either a USB-C or Thunderbolt port. It can also be, as in the case with NEO, a mini DP, you know, the old school mini DP port.
Wow, a return to the old school mini display port.
Which we will keep going on that because mini DP is just slightly, it's more a primitive port. You know, Type-C wants to do everything, power, data, networking, whatever, audio. Mini DP is just that port. So there's less protocol handling. There are less like chips between your GPU and your video output. And what we've seen over the years is like when you have like an 8K monitor from Samsung, or you have a high-end VR headset.
I was going to say VR isn't very beneficial to having a mini display port.
It works on Type-C, but it doesn't necessarily work with every cheap adapter, right? If you just buy a $5 Type-C adapter for your VR headset, get the better adapter. But with mini DP, since it's a more kind of primitive, easy protocol to handle, but while still delivering the same 80 gigabit of bandwidth, which is the DP80 standard of DisplayPort 2.1, that's the port that's like the safest, most reliable option. So
so it'd be easy to hook up your new Pimax Crystal, which has an insane resolution to it, with this laptop compared to maybe some other ones where you might need to get a more expensive USB-C adapter or something like that to actually get the proper display output. Because it is very important to have proper display output bandwidth when dealing with high-end VR headsets, for sure. So let's go ahead and move on to the memory on the Neo 16. So we're looking at CSO-DIMM 6400 support. Do you want to explain that?
I want to, but let's check if there's any question in the chat real quick.
I didn't see any questions yet, but you can put out a feeler if you guys have any questions.
And I'm seeing we're still showing the roadmap. Or
it says Nova Lake laptops due 2026 or 2027.
Yeah, is that a statement or a question?
It's a question with a question mark, but I don't think we can confirm or deny anything.
I can confirm something is going to come this decade from Intel.
4Eva wants to know, are AMD GPUs coming in 2025? AMD laptop GPUs, I think is what they was asking.
Right.
We haven't heard anything that I know of.
So. Well, you know, you can check.
You may know more.
you can check the usual rumor mill. AMD has a GPU division, as far as I know, but it's not gonna. We don't have specific plans right now for high-end AMD GPUs. I would
say the most news around AMD GPUs is the new Ryzen AI Max Plus 395 with their new 40 graphical unit integrated GPU, which is basically like an RTX 4060 or 4070 in a CPU combo pair. 16 cores, 32 threads. I know we actually got to do testing. It might be less than that. It might be a 4050 or something. But either way, it should be enough power to do good quality gaming at QHD and lower resolutions. So at least in theory, that's my current understanding of the product. So how quick is the new VRAM, the GDDR7 VRAM on the 5090? I don't think we can talk about that because of NDA.
Not indirectly, but go to geforce.com/laptops or something. NVIDIA has posted full spec sheets of the laptop GPUs. So just after the keynote, not you, I mean our dear reader and audience. Please go to geforce.com. They posted all the specs like memory bandwidth, memory frequency, amount of CUDA cores, but also amount of AI cores. That's like at the top of the table for reasons.
The tricky part about all of this, of course, is when it comes to real world performance, the raw specs don't necessarily always translate because the architecture changes make performance differences and all of that. So we really just got to get down to actual game testing and benchmarking.
But what I can say is that there are not multiple tiers of VRAM. If you get an RTX 5090 laptop GPU, you will get a certain amount of VRAM at a certain speed. It's nothing we can do about it. Like NVIDIA does give you very clear guidelines how it's supposed to run.
It'll run at least this fast.
Yes. And there were some rumors a couple of weeks ago that there might be like cut down VRAM capacity on some SKUs, and like because the 5090 now has 24 gigabytes of VRAM, there was concern it might be cut in half, but we cannot confirm that. We do not have any offers from any chip partners for such cost down versions. It's going to be 24 gigabyte with 5090, 16 gigabyte with 5080, and 12 gigabyte GDDR7 with 5070 Ti.
Okay, cool. All right, so now,
Yes. Now,
can you explain
specs.
the CSO-DIMM 6400?
CSO-DIMM. CSO-DIMM is a evolution or incremental improvement on the DDR5 standard. It's a JEDEC standard. It has been published about a year ago, I would say, and Intel's Arrow Lake platform is the first to support it.
Okay.
CSO-DIMM is compatible with regular DDR5, so you're using the same slot and the same pin layout, but the RAM module themselves, they have an extra chip, which is a kind of a clock driver and helps running higher clocks more efficiently. And there's a version for desktop, which is called CU-DIMM, and there's a version for laptop, which is called CSO-DIMM.
So if they wanted to upgrade their RAM to a new one, they would need to look specifically for CSO memory.
Yeah, there will be a bit of tight supply in the first few months this year. Memory makers like Crucial and SK Hynix are coming out now, but there might be, if you buy a laptop with an Intel Core Ultra 9 HX, you may have to look at the specs. There may not be CSO-DIMM in your laptop, but you could always upgrade later because the platform supports it. Check with your...
So all Intel Core Ultra 9 laptops will support CSO-DIMM?
They are supposed to support it. And we at XMG and Schenker, we will support it. We are validating it right now. We will see how fast it goes, how much capacity.
Will you guys offer different memory modules that the users can customize in your checkout configuration process, or will you just have one that you'll set?
Our online shop allows full flexibility customization. You can start at 16 gigabyte and upgrade up to 96. We offer the memory at different speeds and frequency nodes, and as we go along, we will add more memory as it becomes available.
And that may include XMP memory, right? At some point?
Right. We already have XMP memory for last gen with regular DDR5, and I'm sure there will also be in the future CSO-DIMM with XMP profiles. Like those are like pre-binned modules which are overclocking friendly.
Yeah, so there'll be memory modules that you can buy either directly from XMG potentially, or on your own and upgrade later, that you might be able to do XMP memory overclocking, which is a way to just make your memory faster. And XMG's BIOS for the Neo 16 will support that. At least that's the plan currently. So, and then we have CPU undervolting on there. So you guys are going to do undervolting support?
Undervolting has been a regular feature in XMG NEO series. So it's a BIOS option menu. You can undervolt the P cores, E cores, cache, and so on. It's more like a fire and forget thing because it's in the BIOS. So once you found the sweet spot for your system,
just leave it.
It's enabled. You leave it there. You forget about it. Ideally, and you need to find a sweet spot. You need to test it. You need to run some stress tests to make sure it doesn't crash. So if you undervolt too far, your system
right, if you're crashing randomly, it's time to reduce your undervolt.
Reduce it by a bit, but there's really no risk in it. There's no harm. We have a recovery mechanism where if you undervolt, like instead of going step by step, if you just go to 11, you know, and your system doesn't boot, we have a hotkey that allows the BIOS to reset itself, and so you can start from scratch.
Okay, so it's good. Not all, I mean, pretty much all manufacturers will let you reset it somehow, but sometimes you have to take the laptop apart and press a button or to take the battery out or something like that. So it depends. So I see 140 watt USB-C. I'm assuming that's power delivery through the USB-C port?
That's correct. So XMG NEO has two Type-C ports. Both of them allow power delivery, but only one of them allows the 140 watts.
Which one is that? Is that
the one on the back.
The one on the back. Okay.
For Intel, that's the Thunderbolt port. Unfortunately, it's not a PD 3.1 with 28 volts. Some people will know what I'm talking about. Instead, it's kind of an extension to the PD 3.0 spec, meaning it uses 20 volts at 7 amps, and it's a convenient way to deliver more power while still using the same voltage regulators that you already use for your regular adapter, because 20 volts is kind of that's the native voltage for gaming laptops it's a spec that Lenovo already has done last year. If you get the right USB-C adapter, it can be your standard adapter. You can charge your phone with it. You can charge your MacBook with it, but you can, if you plug it into your XMG NEO, it's going to deliver 140 watts.
Nice. Okay. So
Any more questions in the chat? And
yeah,
right.
so we can take a look at the questions in chat. How is Linux support?
I have a quick question for you, Brandon, because if you go back to YouTube on the top left, it shows the roadmap, or is that the current view?
That's the current view.
Oh, okay, great. So Kai, you can go up back to us. Right.
So it says, is there a Cherry MX keyboard on this?
Tilt up, tilt up, tilt up.
He's working on it. He's taking his time.
It's a first day camera assistant, doing great.
He's doing great. Okay, so Cherry MX
Cherry
keyboard?
MX is not happening in XMG NEO 16. With the refresh of last year, we introduced a new keyboard, which is it's a membrane keyboard, but it's one of the most high quality we ever had.
It feels good.
It has concave keycaps. It has a full layout. It has, I think, 1.8 millimeter travel distance, or 1.6, but definitely enough. And full number pad, separated cursor keys. And this was last year. And in this year, we improved even more. We changed the material and tooling on mostly the material of the scissor switches that are responsible for the tactile feedback. And so it is even slightly more tactile and stable, slightly less wobble. If you put it side by side, you will notice. So it's an improved keyboard. It has per key RGB, it has N key rollover, and it's our standard keyboard. It's going to be in XMG NEO 16, XMG Fusion 15, Core 15, EVO 15. They all will share the same amazing keyboard.
Okay.
Except that it's per key in NEO, but it's going to be single zone in Core and Fusion. It's going to be white backlit. So the backlight depends on the model, but the mechanics and the mechanisms depend. They are unique to this keyboard.
Nice.
Also, N-key rollover is a feature that's only in the Neo 16. But it's so complicated.
Okay.
Let's just say no Cherry MX. Cherry MX was very heavy, very expensive. Also limited us in terms of keycap size. For example, in Cherry MX, all the F keys were like full size, which is makes it very big and so on. And so that's the thing that's still available in XMG NEO 17, which we will continue selling. But good membrane keyboard is the way to go. I personally love membrane keyboards. I'm using the Logitech MX keys. Click the link in the description, which is an amazing membrane keyboard for working and casual gaming.
Okay, so I want to talk for a moment on one of the reasons why you guys are able to provide so many different SKU specs, right? You've got the 5070 Ti, 5080, 5090, and you've got the mini LED, and you've got the regular display this year. And then you're also planning to support the Ryzen 9955HX and HX3D. So you're talking about many different CPUs, GPUs, display combos. In the past, it would have been much harder to do this without your new modular motherboard. Dun, dun, dun.
That is right, Brandon. We have redesigned with our partners the motherboard layout, and I actually would like to show you on screen and then on hand first. First on screen, where you just go to the next tab and make that full screen. And
it's already full screen.
So all right, that's the cooling system. Here we are. So if the viewers can see. On the left, we are live from CES. On the left, you see a large die, which is the CPU. That's an Intel HX CPU. Yep. And below that, you see 2 memory slots. So you know this is a main board.
Right. So this is the memory right here.
Right there.
Nice. Okay.
And then on the right side, you see an even larger die. With a bunch of memory around it.
So this is the GDDR7 right here?
That is correct. And this is an RTX 5080 die.
Okay.
And in the middle between those two, you see a connection bridge, a black shaped rectangle. Yep. It says MB motherboard on the left and GPU on the right. Yep. And this is our new we haven't found a cool name for it yet, but the chip partner name is a PC bridge. It's an interface that is a removable interface that connects the GPU to the mainboard. It allows PCIe Gen 5 bandwidth with 8 lanes. It also allows to drive power between the boards. Because if you look up on the boards, you see that each board has its own I/O ports. In the top left, on the main board, on the CPU board, you see a small thing that's the Thunderbolt port, Thunderbolt 4 with Intel. And on the right, you see 3 ports being on the GPU board. There's a
HDMI.
There's HDMI on the right. There's a mini DisplayPort in the middle, and there's the power input socket for the whole laptop. So if you attach your 330 or 420 watts power adapter to Neo, actually it goes into the GPU first, and the GPU then delivers the power over this bridge to the rest of the system.
Okay.
If you put your USB-C adapter into the Thunderbolt port, which is on the left in the picture, then its power will be delivered to the main board, and which will in turn also be able to power the GPU. You will not be able to do much gaming on a 140 watts USB-C adapter, but it's a two-way street, and it allows it's a full system when you put it together. And for us, back to your question, Brandon, it allows us to be more flexible when it comes to what configurations we offer.
Now, I want to make clear to the audience, very important, that this does not mean that your laptop's necessarily upgradable, right? This is primarily a manufacturing method of being able to provide lots of different configs, lots of different SKUs, because they're able to order the motherboard. Like, they can order 1,000 main boards and then 300 of this graphics card, 300 of this graphics card, 300 of this graphics card, and they can pair them up as needed to be able to ship them to customers. And then if they run out of one graphics card, they only have to order just more parts of just that graphics card part of the board. And they already have extras of the main board. So they can keep a lower amount of stock on hand, assemble it quickly. And then the other big advantage, if the GPU goes out, if the memory goes bad, if the CPU goes bad, some part of it, you can only have to replace half of the board instead of both pieces.
This is correct. It also streamlines our product development or R&D phase. Like when we do, when people ask us, hey, can you do an AMD version of this? Then normally this would require a completely new mainboard. Also would require approval with NVIDIA, where you need to design a motherboard that has the, for example, AMD Fire Range CPU, and also needs to connect on the same board with an NVIDIA GPU or with multiple GPUs ideally, meaning that everything has to be retested, re-implemented, rerouted. Every system is a complete unique thing, whereas with the new split or modular mainboard design, we can keep using the same GPU boards and connect them to different CPU platforms. So when we will eventually release an XMG NEO or this chassis with AMD Fire Range, we are only doing a new mainboard, but the GPU boards are the same. So this will speed up the development, the validation. It allows us essentially to be faster and ship the second version or the AMD version, faster in time compared to previous generations.
I think it's really, really smart. Like, imagine down the road, AMD releases Radeon GPUs, and you're like, hey, we want to add that, or new NVIDIA GPUs. You could potentially pair older CPUs with newer GPUs to add a discount rate, or whatever you guys wanted to do.
Right. Okay.
Lots of different options here.
There are many options and permutations, but there are also limits, of course, because we're still talking about an integrated system where even though you don't have to redevelop the GPU board to connect it to another CPU, you still need to validate and make sure it works together. You need firmware support. For example, we still have hybrid graphics. That means the laptop screen by default is connected to the iGPU, and the iGPU is able to get images from the DGPU. And this goes through this PC bridge, and this needs to be
high speed.
It needs to work, basically. You need support from AMD, Intel, NVIDIA. Everyone needs to be on board, no pun intended, to make a full system. You also need to be able to cool it. So the thermal module, the heat pipe system, every heat pipe system is unique to each platform, because the locations and the thickness of the die, of the chips, they are unique. And the MOSFETs, the voltage regulator, everything is unique. And so if you want to, for example, combine, once we make an AMD version, it's going to be a different thermal module. So you need to replace the main board and the heat pipe system. So there will, and this is just in one generation, right? So we must refuse to imply that there will be a cross-generational upgrade path right now, because we're just taking the first steps with this ecosystem. So, so our board partners were very sensitive about like over-promising too much. So it's really right now about our internal logistics.
I feel that because I was an Alienware Area 51M user who wanted to be able to upgrade my MXM graphics, and then it was no longer supported on the RTX 3000 series. Or maybe it was, but I could never get access to it because there was limited supply of the GPU, and so there's a lot of limitations involved in upgrading, making this laptop upgradable, especially when it comes to actually doing the upgrade, because it's a tight-knit system, and it's very likely that users would damage their system as well if they tried to upgrade it at a later time. So the focus of the modular mainboard is not upgradability down the line. It's really about the manufacturer being able to deploy many different configs and being able to adapt the mainboard to new GPUs and CPUs to GPUs as needed. And yeah, I think it's a really smart idea, and I would not be surprised to see a lot of other companies doing this soon.
You can go a few more pictures in our slideshow here.
Yeah, which ones do you want to show?
The next one first.
Because the next one is the Pro.
Let's have a look at this one. Okay, so I was just saying, so the heat pipe, the thermal module is connected. You always have a hybrid cooling system, so CPU and GPU heat pipes are connected. Yeah. We're looking at the bottom of the thermal unit right now. There's even a heat pipe that is just like connecting VRAM modules with each other.
Right. Yeah, down here, right?
On the left, right. Yeah. Exactly. And okay, and go to the next page, because we brushed over that. There's still in XMG NEO series the water cooling loop, so this also needs to be validated. This connects CPU and GPU to the XMG Oasis liquid cooling solution. And if you go to
this cooling loop right here, for those of you who don't know, the XMG NEO 16 does offer water cooling. So they've got the water cooler over here. It hooks to the back of the laptop. And it does not need the water cooler to function. It's just going to function at a higher level of performance when it's hooked up to the water cooler. So water goes from the reservoir into the laptop through the heat plates here and around all of the heat pipes as well, because it can use air and water to combine the cooling. Or you can just primarily use the water cooler and keep the laptop fans extra quiet as well, but it's not going to be quite as good. But it's a great combination of water and air to make a better ambient overall noise for the end user. So that's one of the reasons why I really like it.
Let's have a look at the chat.
Sure.
I love answering questions to the chat. Look, oh my God, there's a wall of text.
Stylus wants to know, what about the delay that the bridge adds? Doesn't it affect the communication between the CPU and GPU?
No. Because the bridge itself is a passive component, so it does the same job as you would have through the traces through the motherboard. Like the GPU was always connected by a PCIe
lanes, right? Going through the motherboard.
Are there a few more centimeters of path length, perhaps? But those latencies are nothing compared to, I mean, what the user is thinking about. There's no translation happening. There's no protocol handover. It's a native PCIe Gen 5 connection.
Okay, so there's no additional latency added.
Not that we can tell.
Okay. Well,
engineers,
I'll be doing testing to find out. So,
electrical engineers would probably be able to measure it in nanoseconds or fractions of nanoseconds, but it's nothing that's relevant to the end user.
Manifestation of Jason wants to know, what price should we expect the 5080 and 5090 respectively? Do you have a pricing on this yet, or no?
Pricing yet, between 5080 and 5090? Yeah. Kai has pricing, our cameraman. He can speak, but he's checking his notes.
We're gonna.
So I think so we haven't announced pricing yet, and we're not supposed to launch the ordering page yet. But the 5090 will be a few $100 or euros more expensive than the 4090 in the same with otherwise similar components. Okay. It might be even $400 or $500. It really depends on the system. The price gaps between GPUs will be reasonable as per NVIDIA policy. And the more you buy, the more you save. And that's all I can say at the moment. I'm sorry.
So no official pricing yet. All right.
Can you move the camera up to us again?
All right. ADT says, love that XMG is pushing this laptops forward.
Yes, we love pushing laptops forward.
Okay, cool. So let's go to the next segment of, I believe we're going to do a breakdown on the Neo 16.
We will do a breakdown. Do you have one more picture on this show?
I don't think so. I think the next is the 18.
Right, okay.
So we're ready to go ahead and let's first get a close-up, Kai, of the laptop. And if you haven't already, even get a close-up of the ports. Let's go ahead and talk about the ports options on here so we get a breakdown. So I want you to get real close, zoom in on the ports. So the front of the laptop, there are no ports. You can see the per key RGB. We've got a glass touchpad.
That's right.
And then a membrane keyboard with 1.8 millimeter travel, you said?
That's correct.
Okay, full-size number pad here. On that side over there, we have a full-size SD card slot, it looks like.
Yeah, let's lift it up a bit so people
Sure.
can see.
Yeah, Kai, scoot up a
Can you
little
turn
bit?
off the rotating thing?
Sure.
The
That's fine.
lazy Sue, what's it called in Taiwan?
Turntable? Let's call it a turntable.
Yeah, in restaurants, it's a lazy Sue. It's where, there's a round table if you get.
So how's this?
Oh, that's amazing. All right.
Okay, there.
Okay. Oh, it turned red.
I know. Okay, there. Now you have something to balance.
Okay, let's see.
So we have two USB-As and a full-size SD card slot on this side.
And that's a new card reader. This supports SD Express cards, which allows you up to 900 megabytes per second speed.
So UHS-2?
No, even faster.
Even faster. Nice.
SD Express is a relatively new standard, launched like 1 or 2 years ago. It's based on PCIe,
Okay.
so it's way faster.
Nice. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go to the back of the laptop. So yeah, aim up a little bit more, Kai. So just hold the laptop right
it, Brandon.
and aim up higher. There you go. Now we can see better. All right. So starting from the left, we have the water cooling loop with the new connector, and then Thunderbolt 4 on the Core Ultra, and it'll be a USB-C port with the Ryzen chip if it goes to the Ryzen chip. Mm-hmm. Then we've got a power adapter port, a mini display port 2.1, and the HDMI 2.1 on the back. Now on the left side of the laptop, we have another USB-C 3.2, another
Gen 2, yes.
Gen 2, and then a USB-C 3.2 and a headset port.
So Type C, Type A, and headset.
And
headphones.
then we also have an Ethernet port as well.
That's a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port.
One criticism, it's downward facing. I'd recommend you guys flipping that over if you can.
But that's, well...
that
would make the hinge design more complicated, I think. But yeah, I know.
Okay.
The network purists are going to hate this.
Okay, so that's the overview of the XMG Neo 16. Let's go ahead and turn this thing off, and we'll take the bottom off, and we'll take a look at the internals. You said, do we want to turn it off or just put it to sleep? That was to sleep.
Hibernate. That was hibernate.
Okay, all right. So we're going to turn the turntable off. And
I'll put it here so Kai can focus on the laptop, and while I unfasten the screws, we can perhaps answer a few more questions from the chat.
Sure.
So everyone on the chat, keep posting your questions. Love to answer them.
Okay, so does the 18-inch have water cooling? The Pro 18?
The 18-inch does not have water cooling, but it has very large fans and good air cooling.
Turn the camera a little to the side, Kai, so you can see the whole laptop. There you go. Okay. Did you guys talk about the 18-inch laptop? Not yet manifestation. We're going to go in detail on the Pro 18 soon, the Key Pro 18. Will XMG ever consider doing water cooling dock like the Asus did with the GX800? So like something you pop the laptop into?
We're not considering that. We want to have a system that is like modular in the sense that one water cooling solution can work with multiple kinds of laptops. And if you make this like a huge dock, you kind of have to make sure that it's like future compatible, like where things have to fit. Like it cannot be optimized for any kind of form factor. Also makes it way more expensive and risky, and it's just not what we're gonna do. Okay. And also that we don't have plans to combine like a Thunderbolt dock or port replicator or hub into Oasis, because we kind of have the philosophy that you want to build one tool for each purpose, like one tool for one job, where this is cost effective and also reliable. When you start like having Thunderbolt features in there, Thunderbolt is also like a difficult protocol that sometimes has compatibility issues with certain platforms. So, and then you have to redevelop the whole thing, and just makes everyone sad when it doesn't work out the way you want it to. Yeah.
I gotta say, I do think that Chad may be onto something, that if you were to able to integrate maybe a USB-C port with your water connector line,
Yeah.
and then you'd be able to have just some keyboard and mouse and maybe a basic DisplayPort output.
This is probably reasonable. Maybe a simple USB-C hub. Yeah, that's something we can consider for a future generation. Right now, XMG Oasis is in its second iteration called Mark II. We don't have any specific plans to update this year, but yeah, a USB-C hub, we can take this into consideration.
Okay. Right. All right, so we're ready to take a look at the inside here. Let me come around so I can also take a look a little better. And I'm also going to grab one of the lights so I can do some more pointed lighting as needed. All right.
This is live, by the way. We're still live.
We are still live.
I'm waiting to lift the lid. I wanna see Brandon's reaction when he looks inside.
Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and take it off now. Dun, dun, dun. Ah, it looks pretty clean. And you guys have a tri-fan design now.
That
Very
is
interesting.
correct.
Okay, so big fan, small fan.
Right.
And then we've got our SCHENKER slots here. And by default, do you guys already have 6400 memory in here?
Not right now.
Not right now?
We do not have CSO-DIMM samples at CES. They are not in time.
Okay. All right. So these will be different RAM modules when it ships anyway. So there's no point in looking at those.
There's not a single configuration. Customers will be able to choose whatever memory modules we can offer, and by the time we are allowed to ship, which will be in early March, according to NVIDIA guidelines, there will hopefully be a lot of more memory options available.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at an M.2 slot here. Is this the Gen 5 SSD?
No, Gen 5 is over there.
Gen 5 is over here. Over here. Is this the slot?
Yeah, there's a slot under here.
Can we take this cover off?
Of course.
Nice. I'm also noticing that you guys have a lot of airflow foam, like foam in here to guide the airflow of the laptop. That's something that's new. We saw that in the Asus series, and I'd like to see you guys implementing it here. I think Lenovo and Razer have also been doing it, because it just helps make sure that the airflow that you bring in and move over the components really capitalize on where you want the air moving, because otherwise it'll just move in random places where doesn't really benefit the cooling system.
Yeah, there's even another component to it. So users can see the RAM modules here and the little fan, which is not very loud.
Can you refocus again?
The little fan takes air in from the bottom of the laptop and blows it out in this direction over the RAM.
Oh, it blows it this way.
It blows it this way, and in the final configuration there will be this shield installed here, and this has another piece of rubber or foam which will direct the airflow to go over this shield and go over the heat pipes and then exit through ventilation holes. If you lower the light, people will be able to see that the light can peek through holes back there.
Yeah, they see it.
And people might wonder now, why do you put a RAM heat shield on top of the RAM? I mean, it kind of traps heat under it, but the idea of having just a flat shield is to make sure that the air really doesn't create too many vortex elements.
It flows smoothly over the surface.
Just flows smoothly and has a exits the system faster with the heat.
What about cooling the Gen 5 SSD, because those can run pretty hot?
Right. The SSD have been cooled for many years with thermal pads that are installed on the inside of the bottom lid. So I'm showing the bottom lid right now. This is a sample, so it doesn't have the thermal pads. But if you see that the one slot is here, so there will be a matching location on this inside right around here, where the heat of the SSD is being transferred to the aluminum cover, which acts as a large passive heatsink.
So we're going to use the bottom aluminum cover to help cool the Gen 5 SSD.
And the Gen 4, both of them.
Okay, and the Gen 4. So very interesting. Let's take a look at the heat pipe layout. So we've got, looks like 3 big shared heat pipes across the 2 big fans, as well as, of course, this other one right here that doesn't connect to anything other than the heat plate. So it's going to rely on the heat plate to transfer the heat over to these other, I guess it'll also, the water cooler, I suppose, will also help dissipate the heat too.
This little heat pipe is connected to MOSFETs, which are part of the GPU. And it has enough heat conductivity to just take the heat away from the MOSFETs and distribute it together with this plate and with
so very important. These can get really hot, and if you want to run continuous high levels of performance, you really need to keep those cool.
That's right.
So very nice. I mean, I think that it looks like a very well thought out cooling system that you guys have this year. I like it overall. Were we talking, what are the Wi-Fi module that we're looking at here? Are we looking at Wi-Fi 7, 6E?
It's currently 6E. We're still validating Wi-Fi 7.
Okay. So is the plan to ship with 6E or 7?
The plan is to offer upgrade options, so default 6E and Wi-Fi 7 is an upgrade. Not confirmed yet, still validating, but there's no, technical limitation. The antennas, the board, the CPU, everything supports Wi-Fi 7.
Okay. And what's the watt hours on the battery?
It's a 99 watt hour battery. The same,
so 99 watt hours.
99.8.9.
Nice.
It's the same battery we've shipped last year, and it's the same like a Neo 17 from even 2 years ago, so very stable supply there.
Nice, okay. And when they order it, are they going to be able to order it with a Gen 5 SSD?
Yes, we've been shipping Gen 5 SSDs for over a year because one of our workstation series, the Key 17 Pro, has had a Gen 5 slot on Raptor Lake for a year. We have the crucial T700 with Gen 5 and 4 lanes, and we also have the Seagate FireCuda 540 available on bestware with multiple capacity configurations. Those are full power Gen 5 SSDs, and they run in stress tests thanks to the to the additional cooling, the thermal pads, and taking the heat away from the SSD towards the aluminum cover. Gen 5, no problem.
Okay, cool. So I'm looking forward to being able to check this out because there's a lot of upgrades between the Gen 5 SSD support, the ability for you guys to switch. Can we see the gap? The gap is right here between the motherboards, is that right?
Yeah, the connector is just under the heat pipes, but we do have individual boards at hand.
Okay, so we can kind of put the boards...
And then put it on top of it.
Yeah.
Let's see if this reads on screen, on camera. This is a GPU board, and let me think, where does it go? Wait, I'm holding it the wrong way.
There you go, yeah.
It's this, it goes right here.
Okay.
So this is a GPU board, GPU die.
Aim up a little bit more.
Now you also see why we have this weird extra heat pipe, because this board is not a square, it's not a rectangle, it is just fits into our laptop, just leaves enough space for the fan.
There you go.
So
that looks good.
The voltage regulators are here in the bottom right corner on the screen, and the interface for PCIe is right here.
Let's put the other one down next to it so we can see. And then you have the little connector as well, right?
Right. So let's do a little Tetris right here. Fits just perfectly. Every edge.
Zoom in more right here, all the way in at the top part, right where the connector is, if you can, Kai. Aim a little bit higher up. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you can really see that connector right there where the boards fit together. And then we got our little
bridge, the PC bridge from NEO.
And this is going to send the electrical signals from one board to the other in a seamless connection.
Right. And there are little guiding pins which make sure you put it in the correct orientation, and it just like snaps in right there. Here we are. And then there's a second plate, which is just a piece of metal which you put on top, and that will be screwed down with 4 regular Phillips screws. I'll just put one.
Aim a little higher.
I just put one in here for show.
There you go.
So it just a regular screw.
You can tap on the screen right on the connector.
So the golden piece of metal, it's actually iron, I think, with a film on top, this will make sure that the power or the torque of the screw is being distributed equally along the length of the PC bridge, and then this will screw into the chassis that is under the mainboard. So you don't have to take each one mainboard out to like disconnect them from each other. It's an assembly system which we, in our assembly line and our service department, we can access all the parts just from one direction. We do not have to disassemble the keyboard or flip it around or anything. We just, it disassembles from the top.
That is really, really cool. So not an inverted motherboard, even though they're putting together in a modular way.
Correct.
That's awesome. Okay, so I think that covers just about everything for the Neo 16.
Yeah.
Are we ready to move on to the Key 18?
Let's double check on questions.
Okay,
so any more questions on Neo 16?
Zoom out so you can see the whole laptop, and you can go ahead and put the laptop cover back on.
No, I'll just leave it.
And I'll look at questions. Okay. Is it waterproof? No. No electronic laptop is waterproof. Well, is this considered like MXM?
No, it is not MXM. MXM was a very well-defined form factor where the GPU boards were kind of square or rectangle shapes and they had like one connection. And the connector, it was built in a way where MXM was kind of a second layer on top of the main board. Whereas now we have those two boards being like in the same parallel plane. This allows this design to be thinner in terms of the thickness of the laptop, and also to utilize space better. Also, what MXM never has done is to have ports being directly connected from the GPU board to the outside world, meaning that MXM had the challenge that you had to route everything through the MXM slot, not just the PCIe interface between CPU and GPU, but also the HDMI DisplayPort and also multiple DisplayPort signals. Now this design is a little bit more lean because the display signals go right out of the GPU without having to interface through the internal connection.
Yeah. Can you zoom out, Kai, and show us on the screen again? So Alita wants to know one more time, TGP and TDP. For CPU, they've confirmed over 100 watts on air cooling and liquid cooling, probably a little higher on liquid cooling. And then, realistically, I'm sure the peak is probably at least 150. That's me saying that, not him. But there's going to be a lot of power throughput on this laptop. One of the most powerful laptops that money can buy. Whether it's air-cooled or water-cooled, and when it's water-cooled, it'll be competitive with the very, very best and beefiest 18-inch laptops on the market. So I'm really impressed with the XMG Neo 16, especially with the modularity, the CPU support they're planning for 2025, the premium upgrades for the display, as well as the RAM, the SSD. I'm a little sad you guys don't have Thunderbolt 5 support, but you have a mini display port, which is probably the main reason I would want a Thunderbolt 5 for those crazy displays. So we're still good on the display port functionality. I guess the other would be eGPU support, but this already has such a powerful GPU in it already, so that's not really that important for this laptop. Anyway, so yeah, that's the XMG Neo 16, water-cooled, modular, XMP overclockable.
Just one more thing, because the user asked about being waterproof. I just want to highlight to those who have not seen our XMG Oasis solution before that the water tubes have a self-sealing connection, meaning once you disconnect the tubes, they will shut themselves, and the water will not be able to flow if it's disconnected. And for XMG Neo 16 in 2025, we have yet again updated the interface, the tube connector, and Brandon, you can do that. I will hold the laptop and you let it snap in.
I'll let it snap in?
Yeah, push it in, right. And you hear a click, and I'm not, you're way too strong for me, Brandon, I cannot hold the laptop. So you heard an audible click,
and now it's really
absolutely in.
I like that, that is really firm.
Right.
And then the release, this feels really solid. Nice amount of motion to it.
Hold this like this, yeah.
Nice amount of motion to the connector and a good feel to the connector. Let me see, let's go ahead and turn this sucker around so we can actually plug it in where they can see it better. Can you got a good shot of it, Kai? So hold it about there, probably. Yeah, maybe a little closer. And a little bit higher for you. There you go. Aim a little higher, Kai. Nice. So I think it's hard to tell. We're snapped in on both sides, and now we're really locked in. I feel like I could pretty much lift the whole laptop with this. I'm putting that much force with it, and it easily pops out.
That's right.
That is a lot better than it was.
Yeah, well, there's a trade-off. Like now, I mean, the old design was supposed to like disconnect if somebody trips. If somebody trips over the tubes, then the tubes were able to disconnect like by themselves. Now
you're not supposed to tell us the cons of it, Tom.
No, there's always pros and cons. but you know, the thing is the tubes are not. They're not very long, so nobody's going to trip over the tube. So I think it's the right decision. We made the connection being absolutely rock stable, and this applies to the connection on the XMG NEO. The connection on the Oasis cooling unit is still from the previous generation. Again, works fine on the Oasis side because so even though the laptop is not waterproof, we did not have any cases where people like accidentally spilled water because the laptop's on your desk. If you disconnect the tube, and even if you lose a few drops of water, they are on the table. They're not going to automatically run into your laptop, and the loop inside the laptop, that's waterproof. Like maybe you should stress that.
Yeah.
If you've seen on the previous on one of the images that the cooling loop is inside this solid block of aluminum, the transparent, the graphic picture, right? So this is one solid block, and the water loop goes through there and cannot leak and disintegrate.
Yeah. So I mean, essentially the worst case scenario when you're connecting and disconnecting, these self-sealing valves will sometimes leak a few drops of water at most. So you just got to make sure those few drops of water don't somehow end up back inside your laptop. But that's very easy to do as long as you're, I don't know, not doing something extremely stupid. I don't know. So the main downside to this, really firm connection.
That's an upside.
But the downside is it's no longer going to accidentally come out. It's going to pull your laptop.
That's also an upside. Everything an upside.
If you pull this.
And again, that's the XMG Oasis. It's an optional add-on. It's not required for XMG NEO. XMG NEO has great air cooling. This is just for turning it up to 11, performance potentially up with some overclocking, and noise down, temperatures down.
Right. I think the biggest advantage of that is noise down while still maintaining near peak performance. That to me is like the best. Like you might be able to get 5-10% more performance if you push everything to the max. If you're an enthusiast, you might still want to do that. But most importantly, you can still get 95% of the performance while the overall noise is much quieter than the fans running at max speed, which would normally be required to get that same level of performance.
Right.
So that said, you can still hear the water pump sometimes going. But that's usually quieter, in my opinion, than the max fans.
These are the pumps. Yeah, long story. We cannot go over every little detail, but the pumps. If you set it up the first time, the pumps are a little bit louder because you still have some air bubbles. But if you run it for an hour and the water loop is smooth without any air bubbles, then it's. What do you think? I mean, you've been using it for a while.
It definitely gets quieter over time. It gets very loud at the beginning, but then it does get quieter. I think than fans on a laptop for sure.
Right.
So overall, it's still much better. But it is a different type of noise. So if you're in an extremely quiet environment and very sensitive to different noises, maybe you would rather have the gentle whoosh of a fan versus the gurgle gurgle of water. But for the most part, I think it's still overall much less decibels of noise for the same level of performance. So I think that covers the Neo 16 really, really well. I really appreciate you showing everything here, and I love your guys' I thought the motherboards and chips were about to go fly in there. So let's go ahead and move on to the 18-inch from SCHENKER. Did I say that right?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay, so I said it right. Let's go ahead and get it set up on our rotating laptop stand. All right, so go ahead and set her on there.
Any questions in between while I'm booting up?
What would the maintenance on the connector be like when the rubber goes bad? The self-sealing rubber.
The self-sealing rubber, there is where we ship with spare pieces of rubber. Well, it's gonna take
So
ages.
it comes with some O-rings that you can put back on there.
Yes.
Take them off and
Yes.
put them on with a little
Yeah.
tweezer or something.
Yeah, we don't ship a tweezer, but you can do that. It's gonna take ages. There's not so much pressure.
I mean, generally it's going to be pretty air sealed, so they shouldn't dry out as quickly as
Right.
an air exposed.
Also,
O-rings,
the temperatures on the ports are very moderate. The port doesn't get hot due to the water cooling. So yeah, but we do ship with spare O-rings, and you can always send your laptop in for maintenance with XMG and Schenker. Well, like we have 2 years of warranty. You can upgrade to 3 years, but even outside of warranty, you can send your laptop in for like a nice little repaste, repaste your thermal paste, check everything out. Clean the fans and maybe even replace the O-rings, no problem.
I liked when it changed from the blue screen to the multi-RGB. Looked very nice. Let me put this stuff away. So this is the new 18-inch Schenker Key 18 Pro. Looking at the specs here, so it's right here in front of us, spinning around. This is a Clevo-based chassis that you can customize and buy through Schenker. So let's go through the core specs and basic specs.
Right. So let me do that for you, Brandon.
Okay.
Schenker Key 18 Pro is an 18-inch laptop. It is a 16:10 screen ratio. We are offering it, or we're going to offer it once Intel and NVIDIA allow us by the end of February. Pre-order is going to open with a QHD panel and also with a 4K panel.
What's the refresh rate of those, respectively?
The 4K panel is 200 hertz.
200?
200 4K hertz.
Whoa!
Yes, baby.
Whoa!
That's
good. That's much better than most of them. Most of them are 120.
It's a great screen. It has 100% DCI-P3. It has 400 nits, whereas the QHD has 500 nits. But again, this is a 18-inch laptop where you will probably not take it to Starbucks so often. Or to the
400 nits is still really, really good, generally speaking.
Right, and both panels will also support NVIDIA G-Sync and NVIDIA Advanced Optimus.
Okay, and we didn't talk about G-Sync or Advanced Optimus for the Neo 16. Still supported?
Also, both screens support both these features.
Okay.
Yeah. Next.
All right, so we're looking at Core Ultra 9 275HX, 24 cores, 24 threads, 36 megabyte smart cache, 4 RAM slots.
4 RAM
Four
slots.
RAM slots with a total of 192 gigs.
Right now.
Currently until, what is it? What's the new RAM module that'll come out?
Well, there are plans for a 64 gigabyte module by a vendor. Have I named them yet earlier? I'm not supposed to.
so.
I wasn't supposed to.
I don't think so, but it'll be over 200 gigs of memory. I think 64 times 4. Is that 256?
That's right.
256? So 256 gigs of memory in a laptop, so potentially soon down the line.
Pending.
So that'll be supported on the Ultra 9 275HX chipset, huh?
That's correct.
Interesting. Wow. All right. And we've got 2 Thunderbolt 5s on here, Wi-Fi 7, 98 watt-hour battery, and 100 watt USB-C charging. And then for SSD slots, we've got 1 Gen 5 and 3 Gen 4s.
Correct.
That is a lot of SSDs in a laptop. It's been a while since we've seen 4. Are these all 2280 SSDs?
Yes.
So full-size SSDs in this bad boy. So if you need a ton of storage, you can put up to 64 terabytes of storage in this thing. That's a lot.
No, 32.
32? Can't
How
you
much?
get 16 terabyte SSDs now?
I know, but those are not on the market yet. Not in 2280. Maybe in like 2.5 inch SSDs for desktops.
I think they're in 2280s, but they're just really expensive and really rare.
Kai, Google this, please. 16 terabyte M.2 SSDs.
I know that you can at least get 8 gigs or 8 terabytes because I have 2 of those.
8 terabytes is something we offer in our online shop for, I mean, that's been around for a while. I guess 16 terabyte will come around eventually. There's no limit in terms of like chips that support. You can definitely go higher as soon as SSD vendors offer such capacities.
So we're talking about basically absolutely insane specs. Let's go ahead and break down this laptop. Kai, can you zoom in on the ports for us? The backlight looks really good. Is it per key RGB?
Yes.
So we're looking at per key RGB, also membrane keyboard.
That's right.
Similar keyboard to the Neo.
Similar. It's not It's not the same. It doesn't have concave keycaps, for example, but it has a full number pad layout, dedicated navigation keys, similar travel distance.
Is that
NK
dual
rollover.
Ethernet?
That is dual Ethernet.
What?
Now is a good time to stop the spinning.
Okay, you can stop the spin. You just hold the laptop and it'll rotate underneath if you
Okay.
want. So we got 2 Ethernet ports, an HDMI 2.1, and is that a USB-C?
Yeah.
What is that on the
wait,
left?
I forgot. I can't see.
right here.
No, that's a Kensington lock.
The Kensington lock. Okay, and then what's the wattage on the power port?
It's a 330 watts.
330 watt, and for the Neo 16, is it 330?
420.
420?
420.
420 for the Neo 16. Oh my goodness. All right, so let's go ahead and have it rotate again,
Right.
and we'll get to the next port side. So two giant fan exhausts on the back, and on the left side of the laptop, we're looking at another set of ports. I can light them up a little bit for us.
There you go.
2 USB-A's, 3.2, and then a status light.
Headphone.
And a headphone
Let me double
port.
check. No, that's the headphone jack.
Headphone jack. So, yes, if you can focus it here, there it goes. Nice. So we got 2 USB-A 3.2s and a headphone port on the left, and let's flip around to the other side. Here's our Thunderbolt 5s right here, and we're talking a micro SD card slot and 2 Thunderbolt 5s over on the right side. Interesting. I don't really love that it's on the right side personally, as that will be interfering with mouse placement, but yeah. And I also wish you guys had full-size SD card slots.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I would say I really wish was being supported here. But overall, pretty awesome port interface.
That's correct.
Because it's definitely showing the pro aspects of the dual Ethernet, because some business users will need that.
That's right.
And then
Dual Ethernet is something where if you want, for example, you have a private LAN in your office or factory, like and like a LAN that's connected to the internet and one that's not connected to the internet and things like that. And dual Thunderbolt 5, just SSDs. Actually, we do have a Thunderbolt 5 SSD right here. They just came out over there. Kai, if you could grab that. They just came out a few weeks ago. This is an OWC SSD with Thunderbolt 5. It actually maxes out Thunderbolt 5's bandwidth, so it's
extremely fast.
It's twice the speed than a Thunderbolt 4 SSD. So if you're running your 8K video editing projects and so on, no need to copy to your laptop first and then work. Just work straight from the SSD or play games from the SSD. Thunderbolt 5 makes it happen.
I mean, quite frankly, you can do that with USB-C and Thunderbolt 4.
Yeah, but you never know. It's twice as fast.
It won't be as fast as your Gen 5 SSD on the inside. I can tell you that much. If you use an external, unless you use that.
Right.
Then if you have a Gen 5 or equivalent speed with that, then it'll be extremely quick.
Also, since we mentioned 420.
Oh, these are the power brick sizes. No
So
way.
I'm showing 2 power bricks.
Is that so? This is the one for the Neo 16, and this is the one for the Pro.
The one for the Pro I don't have on hand right now, but what we see here at the bottom, and those are very similar to each other. The one on the bottom is the 330 watts from last year, and the one on the top is the 420 from this year.
Wow.
So they are actually almost the same.
So 420 is almost the exact same size as the old 330.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
So
very
those
impressive.
are almost the same, and that's thanks to SiC, which is similar to GaN. It's like one of those new ways to make AC adapters. Silicon carbide makes the adapter smaller, lighter, more compact, similar weight.
So similar weights too. That's nice. I really like that, especially considering some of the other 400-pound or 400-watt bricks I've handled this week have been about twice that size, or about at least 50% larger. So let's go ahead and take the Pro apart and take a look at those 4 SSD slots. We've got a Gen 5 SSD here, and we also have 2 Ultrabooks coming up next. So we're going to talk about those as well in a moment. Go ahead and zoom in on the laptop as we take it apart. All right.
And we can check
Beautiful.
the chat for questions.
Yeah, and so chat, if you have any questions, right now is a great time. So Hello World wants to know, is XMG a Chinese brand or a German brand?
XMG is 100% German brand. run by its founder, Robert Schenker, who 20 years ago started selling bare bones on eBay. That's actually a real story. And out of this like one-man show bloomed a small family-owned company called Schenker Technologies, which after 5 years has introduced the brand XMG. And if you count it, that's 15 years ago. So XMG has been around for 15 years. We do work with partners in Taiwan, of course, and the laptop mainboards and the chassis parts are made in China, but we do assemble everything in Germany. And this piece, yeah, this is.
Do you have anything plugged in?
Yeah, they're all out. No, this last piece of this cover.
It's just hard to pop without
it's an early sample. There we go.
Okay. So one thing I want to say too is that nearly all computer component and laptops have some parts coming from various countries. So you can't really expect any computer these days to not have something being made in other countries, just because that's where the manufacturing for all these parts are.
Yeah, so this is what allows competitive pricing in the end. But yeah, we work with ODM partners like Clevo and Uniwil. Those Taiwanese ODMs have partnered with factories in China, like in Clevo, there's the factory called KPOC. In Uniwil, the factory's name used to be Tongfeng, it's now AI Stone, but the R&D development and our main interface as XMG is happening in Taiwan. That's where I also go quite often to meet face-to-face with all our partners, help them develop, debug, give feedback, design the roadmap.
Okay, so let's go ahead and break down the inside.
All right, sorry, I was rambling again.
Yes, you're good.
This question triggered me. Any more questions in chat?
So it looks like we got a giant subwoofer here, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
That looks like a monster subwoofer. And
for a laptop.
For a laptop, that's huge.
Brandon is a real laptop guy. He loves he loves that.
I love great speakers. So that's really cool to see an investment in the speaker side on a laptop like this, because so many performance-oriented laptops just glaze over the speakers these days, and they're only mediocre. So here's our 4 SO-DIMM slots. I see we only have 2 in there right now.
Right.
So you can run this with only 2 sticks if you need to. Probably you can run this with 1 stick, I imagine.
Yes.
And we've got our M.2 here and here, here and here, and that looks like this one goes right over the Wi-Fi. Yeah. Which one is the Gen 5?
This one. It's labeled Gen 5 here.
Gen 5 right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 total SSDs and the Gen 5 here. The rest are PCIe 4. Giant heat plate here with the GPU and the CPU. And we got all the VRMs being covered here. So 2 giant fans, 4 heat exhausts here to handle the heat output. It looks like the cooling system would be plenty adequate to handle the TDP we're pushing. I mean, we're probably looking at least, high amounts of TDP on both the CPU and GPU at the same time, I imagine, with this system, reaching peak performance, I'm sure.
Well, we're saturating the 330 watts AC adapter. Again, I have to say the NEO, if you add water cooling, can sustain higher power limits if you run CPU and GPU both at 100%. But in gaming, you usually don't max out your CPU power. Right.
Yeah, typically.
Or
you max out the CPU and don't max out the GPU.
It depends on the game. Like if the game is badly optimized, you actually may be CPU bottlenecked even on a laptop GPU. That's true.
Yeah. So, okay, and this is a 99 watt-hour battery, I'm guessing, because it's so large. It's a huge battery.
98 watt-hours.
98 watt-hours. It's a huge battery. It's amazing that this is the same functional capacity as the Neo 16, even though this one's so much larger.
There's more space between the cells, and it's a little bit smaller in this dimension, maybe a little bit thinner.
Yeah. So very cool. That is a really cool setup and an incredible amount of upgradability. One of the most upgradable laptops on the market for sure.
Let me just flip out some memory modules. I just love showing this. So 4 slots, they're like all on the same side of the board. So
can we zoom in out here, Kai?
Unlike previous laptops from other brands, the modules are all available from the same bottom panel. You do not have to take out the keyboard to access memory. And they are numbered from 1, 2, 3, 4. If you run a dual stick configuration, you only populate those slots that are next to the CPU.
So the 1 and 2 slots take priority?
They do. You have the numbers printed on the mainboard, so you cannot confuse them.
Can you run it on 1 stick too?
You can run on 1 stick.
Yep.
And then when you need more RAM, you populate this slot next, and then one more.
Can you run 3 sticks?
You can, but it's not recommended. If you run such an asymmetrical configuration, then the dual or quad channel will not be symmetrical.
So 1, 2, or 4 sticks?
Ideally 2 or 4. You can run 1 stick, but then you will sacrifice a bit of the memory bandwidth.
Okay, so 2 or 4 sticks is the ideal,
Yeah.
and Wi-Fi 7?
That's Wi-Fi 7.
Yep.
Another thing on the sticks is that with the 4 slot configuration, there are certain limits when it comes to maximum memory frequency. I'm sure desktop DIY people know that it's not, having more slots is not always better. The recommendation here is to use modules which have single rank instead of dual rank, because they will clock higher. So for example, if you want to achieve 64 gigabyte of memory, instead of doing 2 32 gigabyte modules, it's better to do 4 16 gigabyte modules, because then each module will be single rank, and that will allow higher clock speeds. The final clock speeds
and the lower capacity will also allow it to be cheaper per module.
Depends, I guess.
Usually the higher capacity modules are not there.
Mayday, mayday. Live stream interrupted. Can the chat hear us?
No. There we go. Okay, so we should be back now. I don't know. Looks like the camera turned off for some reason. Sorry about the interruption there.
Yeah, we had a bit of a loose cable on the camera. Let's see, chat.
Someone is kicking cables. Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe I stepped on the power surge protector.
Maybe.
That might have been what happened. Okay, cool. So that's I think that covers pretty much everything about the Key Pro 18.
That does, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a very, very impressive high-end machine. We can go ahead and take it away, and we'll take a look at the EVO 14 and 15, and then we'll do a brief summary of everything.
You can maybe show the next slide in our little presentation.
Sure, so a couple of shots of the Pro 18.
Let's check with chat if we are on the air again.
Yeah, we should be. It says it's back, yeah. Okay,
right.
Good.
So this is again the close-up of the RAM slots. Okay, that's next. And this is me putting in RAM. And that's our EVO lineup.
So that's what we're about to take a look at next, the EVO 14 and the EVO 15. 2 highly portable laptops that also can offer high levels of performance in the same chassis. So these are going to be, like, think competitors to the G14 or G16 in those ballparks. I especially love that the EVO 15 features a full-size keyboard and something super portable with a number pad, which is pretty rare, I feel like.
Which one do you want to look at first, 14 or 15?
Let's do the 14 first.
Okay, then go to the next slide.
I'm assuming the 14.
That's it, and just go back one. I want to show these pictures first before I put it on screen. We have it full screen, the
yeah, we're on the images right now. Yep.
Okay, so you see here EVO 14 and 15 next to each other. EVO 14 is available in silver, EVO 15 available in black. All of them are full aluminum chassis, all around, high resolution and high brightness displays.
Can we zoom in here? And is it possible to get the backlight on?
Of course.
So we're going to break down the specs for you here on the EVO 14. So we're looking at the AI 300 series, I believe the AI 9 375 HX, is that right?
370.
370 HX, okay. Yeah. And then the Radeon 800M series APU. Right. So no dedicated GPU in this guy?
That's correct.
All right, so the Radeon 800M is actually a pretty gaming capable GPU. I mean, if you're going to play on low settings and do some upscaling, all right? It's not going to be playing ultra settings at QHD native resolution, except in the oldest titles.
Yeah.
But some of the new titles can still run at 30, 40, 50 FPS and have reasonable levels of smoothness. But this is really a portable productivity laptop primarily, first and foremost, correct?
Yeah, well, it's an XMG laptop, so that's extreme mobile gaming, of course.
Okay, all right.
We introduced EVO with Meteor Lake and Hawkpoint, meaning, for example, the AMD 8845HS, because the iGPUs in these APUs now are really capable of, yeah, as you said, running casual gaming, but also competitive gaming. And if you lower down some graphic settings, even some AAA titles, what we also did is implementing integer scaling on the screen. So if you say, I don't have enough FPS to drive a 3K or QHD panel, you can cut down the resolution by 2 without interpolation with integer scaling. So if you
so it's like a native reduction in resolution to have crisp image on the display.
Crisp image with a little retro look with slightly bigger pixels, of course. But so if you're really in a pinch, if you're playing the game not at home at your desktop PC or XMG NEO, you have the XMG EVO on the go. You can run a AAA title at low resolution with native integer scaling.
Okay, interesting.
So we also see it as an entry-level gaming laptop, and this is just the start, right? This was last year, and now the iGPUs are getting stronger and stronger.
Right. So very recently, I did a gaming test. I did 5 games with the Intel Core i9 185H, so designed for the Zephyrus G16, and then also the same chipset that's this one, the Ryzen AI 9 370HX, and the 370HX with the 890M Radeon GPU surprisingly played, I mean, every game with very high 1% lows in particular. Even if the total FPS wasn't like 100 plus, it was still smooth, playable, and a good gaming experience, which is the key thing. You want it to look the fluid motion and be able to have a responsive experience. So, but that was only 5 games I tested, and some of those were some older titles. But like Cyberpunk 2077, Witcher 3, both of those would be an excellent gaming experience on this laptop,
right?
Assuming that it performs the same as it did in my test.
It will,
in another
or better.
laptop. So
we have very good cooling system, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's not just a gaming laptop; it's also an ultrabook. You said, productivity laptop. We want to see XMG EVO as being like the hybrid brand, do it all like series, where it's an ultrabook, but without all those ultrabook compromises.
So are you gonna put?
Are we? Am I?
Are you going to put the Ryzen AI Max Plus 395 in this thing? I want to see it.
People are never satisfied with what they have. Okay, right now we are launching XMG EVO with AMD Ryzen AI 7 350, which is an 8-core CPU with Zen 5 cores and XDNA 2 iGPU cores. And we are also offering as an upgrade the Ryzen AI 9 HX 370, which is Zen 5 with 12 cores and XDNA iGPU with 12 compute units. So that's the current upgrade.
So it's still going to be very gaming capable, and maybe down the line we'll see.
And
some
maybe
other
down the
CPUs.
line. So AMD at CES has announced that there will be the Ryzen Max series, and they say it will be available in the first half of this year. AMD has only selected a small number of partners for this, but Ryzen AI Max is not a drop-in replacement. It's not a simple chip upgrade for any existing laptop. So
you have to do a whole new main board and new cooling system.
New main board, new cooling system, different sockets, different power budget. Like our Ryzen CPUs based on Strix Point and Kraken Point, they run very nicely at like 45 watts total CPU package power, including the iGPU. In XMG EVO, you can push it up to 80. There is a certain diminishing return. Like it doesn't scale with power in a linear way. With Ryzen AI Max, the power budget you need to achieve the benchmarks that AMD has been promising are higher. So the low spec will be, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that, but it's going to be in the higher double digits. And if you go for the high spec part, it's going to be in the 3 digits watts.
For an ideal TDP to get peak performance.
For peak performance. For
the AI Max 395.
Right. So
that's going to need probably, what, 120, 140 watts or something like that.
So
I
if you
imagine.
want, like, what's cool about iGPU gaming right now is that the high efficiency, right? You can play your games and you can do this on air cooling without headphones because it's so efficient.
And you can do it on battery.
You can do it on
for
battery.
longer than you typically be able to do it with a gaming laptop.
Once you upgrade to Ryzen AI Max, this is gonna be still very efficient as an APU, but you're looking at higher power, so you're looking at higher fan speed, noise, and less battery life, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to trash Ryzen AI just because we cannot launch it right now, Ryzen AI Max, but I just want to put it into perspective that this is not a miracle CPU. It's just a huge GPU built into the package of the CPU.
Right.
It will come only with LPDDR5, so usually soldered memory, maybe LP CAM, if you're lucky, but it will not be upgradable in the way that XMG EVO is right now with SCHENKER memory. It's really a fine-tuned CPU for a very specific purpose. Thank you.
Yes.
And it's gonna require a really beefier system. So EVO 14 probably not the right platform for Ryzen AI Max. Maybe EVO 15, maybe if you make it thicker, a few more heat pipes, higher weight, like.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, even EVO 15, that sounds great. I mean, if you're looking for a super portable system, you know, I can see, I'm just saying, I think the new AI Max Plus could be really great, but the other thing is the price. That chip also costs more, so it's kind of like trade-offs, because you could probably afford an NVIDIA GPU and a cheaper CPU at that point, potentially, depending on the price points of everything. So let's go over this in detail.
Yeah, let's just quickly check the chat and our image. Are we looking at the cameras at focus at us? Or
this says, well, don't look at that, that's delayed.
All right.
This is us. We're looking at us. Yeah, so that's us right now.
Right.
So this one person says, I respect XMG more from those live, because I think you're talking live. It's harder to answer questions live on the fly. Cora Bika says, XMG have the best laptop systems out there. XMG sold as Aftershock or Infinity laptops in Australia. Some people are wondering about different brandings of the Uniwill chassis in different regions, because XMG features different chassis from different companies, and right now the laptops we're talking about today, the XMG NEO 16, the EVO 14 and 15, those are all Uniwill.
Yes.
And then we had a Clevo chassis from the SCHENKER KEY 18 Pro. So so know that they may offer Clevo chassis, but they primarily right now, the ones we're talking about today are Uniwill, and they do offer, those laptops are sold for other companies in different regions. You guys primarily cater to German market.
All of Europe.
All of Europe.
Right.
So you offer different keyboards too, specific to your customers in Europe compared to if someone buys this from America, from electronics, for example. So
we have French keyboards, Norwegian, Swedish, Dutch, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese.
So you can get whatever keyboard you need.
Ukrainian, Russian, Hungarian, Bulgarian. I could go on. There are over 30 keyboard layouts in our online shop.
Tyler Webb wants to know, are there custom BIOSes like Prima and XMP profiles?
Good question. On XMG NEO, we have XMP support, meaning you don't need a custom BIOS. We have support out of the box. You go to Control Center, go to Custom Profiles, you click on the Memory Tuning checkbox, or recently it's named CPU Advanced Performance Menu checkbox. You reboot your system, go to BIOS by holding the F2 key. You're in your BIOS setup, and at the very bottom, you will find not only custom memory tuning options, but also CPU undervolting options. Those features are essential for us because we really want, to pick those low-hanging fruits where undervolting the CPU can give you maybe another 5% boost in performance under thermal constraints. And
maybe even 10 or 15, depending on if you got Silicon Lottery.
Exactly.
Or not.
And lowering the latency of the memory can help you with certain CPU bottleneck games. And those are features that we are partnering with Uniwill to get support into our official BIOS out of the box without any without any reverse engineering or anything. So this comes. It's not quite on the same level of extreme customization like Prima BIOS in electronics, and I think electronics is doing an amazing job in unlocking those additional things. We're kind of focusing on, again, low-hanging fruits
I still feel like you're getting some really advanced features with the XMG BIOS. And I'm speaking from someone who goes in and reviews dozens of laptops a year and reviews the BIOSes of dozens of different machines. So the XMG BIOS is usually the most customizable BIOS besides maybe MSI's BIOS, out of maybe Lenovo too, depending. But in general, XMG allows for the most freedom out of the different companies out there. Of course, Primo BIOS is another one, though Electronics hasn't sent me a review unit, so I haven't been able to check out their BIOSes. So that's not my fault.
What's up with that?
So, all right. So that answers the question. So let's go over the ports on the EVO 14, and then we'll do the EVO 15.
Love to. All right, let's go. Let's zoom in on the laptop, on the back. It's a silver laptop, so more easy to read on screen. Here we are. Bam.
Nice.
On the back, first of all.
So keep it low enough to where it blocks
Keep
the
it
light.
low enough.
There you go.
All right. I'll just put it
Perfect.
down, or maybe turn this off. Huh?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So before I go into ports, I want to highlight the vents.
Okay, so two large events.
When I say Ultrabook without compromises, it's that the vents are always unobstructed. Even if you open the hinge all the way and more and to 180 degree, you still have full airflow. Air comes in from the bottom with these bottom vents, air intake, and go out in the back. So those are real vents. This is not decoration. We have two fans, two heat pipes, and this is cool. And this enables us, even on the 14-inch, to drive up to like 80 or between 70 and 80 watts of CPU power sustained with relatively low fan noise. So that's ventilation. Next, we have the Ethernet port. This is a 1 gigabit Ethernet port, and it's also oriented
down facing. Come on. That's a okay.
Downward,
Let's go.
Downward facing port.
Okay, and then we got what is that? USB-C.
And that is Thunderbolt on Intel and USB 4 on AMD.
Okay, so you do offer Intel versions, though our specs that we're talking about today are the Ryzen.
Right, because the Intel versions from last year with Meteor Lake, we have not refreshed the Intel version yet. Intel's a bit late on the H45 segment, but we aim for feature parity between Intel and AMD, especially in XMG.
So this will be USB 4, right?
Yes.
With the Ryzen. All right.
USB 4 with 40 gigabits, with PCIe compatibility, with eGPU support. So a full-fledged Thunderbolt compatible port. And we have HDMI.
HDMI 2.1.
So this is HDMI 2.1 with AMD Ryzen AI series now, but it is a 32 gigabit per second. I have to double check actually.
So it's a high display output.
It's a 2.1. Yeah, it's full 2.1. No, sorry, I think it's 24 gigabit per second. The thing is with HDMI.
The 2.1 can mean different speeds.
The number doesn't mean anything, but HDMI 2.0 is 18 gigabit per second, and that's what you had last year. This year, with the new AMD Ryzen platform, the native support is 24 gigabit per second. I'm 100% sure now.
Okay.
And this is slightly less than what you get from an NVIDIA GPU or from an AMD desktop GPU, but it is enough for 4K 120 Hertz over HDMI.
Okay, and then we're looking at a Kensington lock, USB-A, another USB-C. Is this USB 3.2?
This is 3.2 Gen 2 with DisplayPort 2.1 at 40 gigabit per second from AMD, and also with power delivery input.
Okay, and then we got a headset port.
That's right.
And then on the other side, we've got a full-size SD card reader. That's SD Express.
That's again SD Express.
Meaning super fast.
Super fast.
Super fast. So as fast as your card reader, your card can go probably, unless you're getting a super fast SD card. But even then, that's just insanely fast. So 900 megabits per second on the port itself. Megabytes per second. And then USB-A 3.2, Gen 2, two of those ports.
I honestly forgot. It's Gen 1 or Gen 2?
Okay, well 3.2 USB-A.
Check the spec sheet on our website. If you actually scroll down to the video description, you can find a link to our CES press release, which includes
focus here
details.
So then we have a glass trackpad, it feels like.
That's correct.
Glass one, feels really nice. And then over here, we have a single zone backlight white only, not RGB,
correct.
But it still looks really good. It looks, honestly, this looks like a little MacBook Pro is what the design aesthetics remind me of. I really like that. I like that lineup. It's aesthetically pleasing. and firm. It feels very solid in the hand. You said this is a CNC milled aluminum chassis, is that right?
That's right.
So yeah, it's extremely high quality, very rigid. Like I can't really torque this like hardly at all. Like I'm trying pretty hard. So very impressive build quality. And I love that the hinge also is so rigid too. Like it's very, like I can lift this laptop off my hand before I can close it. Like it's a very firm hinge, which is great for a 14-inch that might be bouncing around in a train or a car to give you the best overall experience on the go. So that's the EVO 14. Basically a high performance Ultrabook in a CNC milled chassis with some really great ports. Let's go ahead and take a look at the EVO 15, which is, in my opinion, a really nice blend for a bunch of different reasons of performance and functionality because it has a number pad. It's going to be probably one of the smallest Ultrabooks that comes with a number pad out there. So like there are very few Ultrabooks that have a number pad to begin with, especially this is like the same keyboard, right, as the Neo 16.
Same mechanics, different LEDs, and also it's not N-key rollover, it's a number of rollover.
Okay, but the key field, the travel depth?
Same.
Same. So, and that's the most important thing when you're talking about typing like Word documents, doing office stuff, answering emails. Again, very hard hinge, firm hinge. Is this CNC milled chassis as well?
Yeah, all aluminum.
All aluminum. Again, feels kind of like a weapon in your hands because it's so firm and so rigid.
And aluminum doesn't like protect you from all damage. Users can see actually we kind of damaged on the way to CES.
Oh no!
with some very improper packaging in my suitcase. So I'm very sorry to everyone in Germany right now from the XMG team but people, you can see it, and it's, I just want to address it so it's not,
okay.
Yeah.
So the downside with aluminum is that it's easier to dent.
Yeah.
The downside with plastic is that it's easier to break. So you can cut through or bounce. Like if you drop that sucker with plastic, it's going to crack and break. If you drop that sucker with an aluminum, it's going to be dented in, typically speaking.
That's why God invented magnesium. Magnesium alloy. And what's the downside of magnesium alloy?
Shatter, I think?
No, actually,
what does it do?
It doesn't dent, doesn't break. It's just really expensive, and it kind of feels like.
Well, it will dent or break at one point.
Never.
At some point.
We haven't managed to break it yet. But no, the thing is, it's really expensive, and it kind of, to many people, it feels like plastic. Magnesium.
Yeah.
Like my own laptop.
It doesn't feel premium in your hands, right?
It's kind of an acquired taste. Right now, we are working on with aluminum. There will be, if you're looking for the ultra low weight experience, like a 1 kilogram laptop in the future, I'm sure we will also have magnesium alloy again in the future.
Okay.
All of those materials have pros and cons.
Okay, so let's talk specs for the EVO 15. So here's another shot of the EVO 15, so it can lay all the way back if you want. The EVO 14 specs, here's the EVO 15 specs. Upgradable DDR5 SO-DIMM slot in a laptop this thin and light is great. Ryzen AI 300 series, so we're looking at the AI 9370HX as kind of the main processor here.
I have to correct you there, it's HX 370.
Isn't it 370HX?
No, because AMD doesn't want to be confused with Intel, because Intel puts the HX at the back of the CPU, and AMD does it in the front, but that's only applies.
You're right. It is in the front.
Oh my god! But
I've been saying it wrong all day.
All day, in every single video.
No.
And there's also a space between HX and 370.
Yeah,
but
there is.
if you go to Fire Range and Dragon Range,
it's at the end.
That's where it's at the end again. So get those digits.
I think we need more complex naming mechanisms. Sometimes the A goes in the beginning, sometimes it goes at the end. Whatever. Let's go ahead and get back to the specs.
Sorry about that.
So
I love to grind Brenton's gears here. So we will ship this, as I said, with Ryzen 7 and Ryzen 9, with the top Ryzen 9 with 12 cores. The memory will be able to be upgraded to 96 gigabytes of memory. This will be DDR5 5600.
we still have SO-DIMM slots in here, very impressive.
There's no CSO-DIMM, there's no XMP profile. So these kind of AMD platforms, they are built for efficiency and small footprint. So don't expect BIOS undervolting or memory tuning. Everything works out of the box as efficient as it can be.
Okay. So USB 4 or Thunderbolt 4, depending on if you get Intel or Ryzen.
Yeah, but
Right.
functionally the same. There's a long list of features that are matched by both, so that includes like everything, and the bandwidth and protocol.
The only thing is that if you get a Thunderbolt certified dock, it may not work with USB 4.
It will work. It must work. The thing is, so
Interesting.
What Thunderbolt adds is just that Intel gives you like access to their lab where you can run through their validation process and make sure that it works also in every edge case. Like you have a bad cable, your laptop has a bad morning or something. Because Thunderbolt, the laptops, the mainboards, and the peripherals, they're from so many different vendors. They use so many different components, like the chips that drive the power input, the chips that handle the data protocol. And over the years, the ecosystem gets more and more complex. So what Thunderbolt does is making sure that there's a very high standard of like signal tolerance and like voltage stabilization.
So I was under the impression that if you bought a Thunderbolt 4 dock and you try to plug it into USB 4, it may just not load because it's saying this is not a Thunderbolt 4 dock, so I'm not going to recognize this port.
In 9 out of 10 cases, it will work because for the dock, the port on the laptop is indistinguishable from a Thunderbolt port.
Interesting. Okay.
Because since Thunderbolt 3 has become an open standard. Again, it's just Intel's stamp of approval and trademark that is added for Thunderbolt. Of course, there are cases where it may not work, but this actually can also happen with Thunderbolt.
Okay, interesting.
That's right.
Very interesting. So I think that goes over the primary specs here. Do you know what the price will be for the AI9HX370 with the base?
Kai, did we announce pricing for EVO? No.
No, so no pricing for the EVO
but we can
either.
We can say the pricing of the current EVO. Yeah.
So the current Intel version is how much?
I don't know. Kai will look it up.
Kai will look it up.
We already sell XMG EVO with Intel and AMD. The AMD option is slightly more affordable than the Intel option, but this might change in the future. Like, if you look at Zen 5 launch, AMD is in a very good position right now with performance, and they do. They're not like just the budget option anymore. They are premium. AMD Ryzen is a premium component, so they will charge premium prices.
Well, they have premium components and more budgety components now. But their premium components are actually competing or out-competing Intel in a lot of ways.
Strix Point will definitely be more expensive than previous Intel generation.
Yeah. So the other thing I want to point out is
we have pricing here.
The 99 watt-hour battery. That's the last thing I wanted to point out. All right, let's go for pricing. Go for pricing, Kai.
EVO 14 starts $949 and EVO 15 starts for $1,049.
Okay, so that's the Intel version. Yes?
No, that's AMD version. This is last year AMD. So the starting price, if you want to buy one right now in Europe with VAT included, German 90% VAT is €949 with a Ryzen 7. 16 gigabyte memory, 500 gigabyte SSD.
Okay.
And you can upgrade on best where those components can go higher.
Okay, gotcha. And then these ones will obviously be a little more expensive than that. Don't know the exact pricing at this point, or they can't announce it.
We cannot announce there's a sales embargo until February 18 from AMD.
So February 18 is when you'll be able to pre-order this?
Yes.
Okay, so February 18th is the pre-order date for this guy. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the laptop and take a look at the ports and take a closer look at the keyboard, if we can get the backlight to come on as well.
We can keep that short because the ports are the same like on the 14-inch, but first let's...
Well, for someone who's interested in this specifically, I would say let's just go over everything. So aluminum keyboard deck, the whole thing's aluminum, but in particular we've got a glass trackpad again, a 1.8 millimeter travel with the arrow keys separated out. I really, really like that. And then we got almost a full-size number pad. Very nice number pad.
Well, it's full functional. It has the standard button layout. It's just that the keys are slightly more narrow. Yeah,
it's narrower than technically a full-size, but it's got the full functionality. And more importantly, I think a lot of laptop users are used to this size now and this layout, because it's a very common layout style between Lenovo,
And
AMD,
as you can see, there's not a single inch to spare on the 15-inch here because the keyboard goes edge to edge from left to right.
Yes, it's all the way to the very edges on both sides.
And the number pad, it's full function. I was going to say a comment again for our audience that if you're wondering why the return key is huge, this is the German keyboard layout, right? German and European ISO layouts. If we do have a US version with the regular return key that most people in the audience may expect. The XMG EVO 15 is available with US ANSI layout in silver, not in black. It's a logistical thing. And the XMG EVO 14 is also available with the regular US return key in silver.
There's no Copilot key.
There's no Copilot key. Due to community feedback, we decided not to include a Copilot key in this generation because we didn't want to sacrifice the Alt-GR or the right control key and also the context menu key. We figured that...
This is not an official Copilot Plus PC then, right? Because of that exception?
It is officially not according to current Microsoft regulations.
Okay, well, that's understandable, and I like that you guys decided to stick to what your consumers want. That's a cool thing. Now, we've got Windows Hello, yes or no? Looks like we do,
yes?
Yes,
we do.
Windows Hello on here. And if we can show the webcam at the top. Windows Hello at the top up here.
And this is with slightly higher, with a webcam shutter.
A webcam shutter built in for privacy.
Yeah.
And let's go over the ports now. So set the laptop here. Yeah, and I think it's a good idea. Do that. There we go. All right, so we've got a Kensington lock, USB-A 3.2, USB-C 3.2, and then a headset port. On the back, we have a downward-facing Ethernet, USB 4 or Thunderbolt 4, depending on if you get Intel or Ryzen, HDMI 2.1 on this side, on the right side of the laptop, 2 more USB-As, and a full-size SD card slot. So for a 14-inch laptop, this is one of the best port selections on the market.
15-inch.
For a 15-inch laptop that's this thin and light. I mean, it looks like the size of a 14-inch in my hand, almost. It's exceptionally small, especially considering the full-size keyboard on it as well. Okay, and this is still the same ports as the 14-inch, yeah?
Same ports.
So for a 14-inch, the Fusion or the EVO 14 is quite an impressive selection of ports.
It is.
All right, so that is the summary. I guess can you zoom in just on us two now, like so you see upper bodies. So that's the laptop lineup. I'll show you one more chart real quick of all of the laptops that XMG is currently selling. The EVO 14, 15, and 16 are the new ones for 2025, and then their existing ones, XMG NEO 17, Apex 17 Max, XMG Core 15, Fusion 15, XMG Focus, and the XMG Pro. So depending on what you're looking for, obviously there will be different options out there, but the XMG NEO 16 being their flagship laptop this year with the best display, best CPU, GPU combos, and all the latest and greatest features that they have included and innovated for 2025. Modular motherboard, mini LED display, 1000 nits, 300 hertz refresh rate, water cooled, 175 watts to the GPU. We're talking extreme performances, XMP support, order customization, so you can customize exactly how you want when you order it. There's a lot of good reasons to consider XMG, and so if you're in Europe, you can use XMG. I'll put a link, there is a link I think already to their press release for XMG, but we'll also throw an affiliate link down below to their store if you decide to buy any of these and you want to help support me and my team for our content that we're putting out for everyone. I also want to throw out that I have put together a laptop list that is going to cover all of the latest and greatest laptops out there. And that's going to include the new 2025 laptops that you can pre-order already, some of them I believe you can already pre-order. That's what some people are saying in chat.
You're not supposed to be able to pre-order them yet.
Okay, so Tom says you're not supposed to, but as soon as you can, we will have pre-order links for any of the ones that are available for pre-order. And if you want to know more information about the 2025 laptops, we will be compiling them into this list and releasing them daily until everything comes out, and then eventually maybe probably do 3 times a week on the updates. But overall, I'm really excited about the new XMG laptops. I'm excited about all the laptops here at CES, and I filmed a bunch of laptops. I filmed probably 25 different laptops already in just 2 days, and I've got another day and a half of filming to go, so I'm gonna try to get another 25 laptops or so if I can. Do as many as I can here before I head back. So be sure to subscribe, like the live stream if you appreciate the content. A big shout out and thank you to Tom and Kai and XMG for hosting me. I really appreciate all the effort you put into getting everything set up here, and the laptops, and showing off your new builds and innovations. And I think the Uniwill team also deserves to thank you for innovating. The laptop community really appreciates all of the engineering that went into the Neo 16 and the ideas and the throughput, and it's just, we need to keep innovating and making laptops better, and you're helping make it possible. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Right, and also thanks to Clevo for innovating on the 18-inch and delivering the most extreme workstation that has been launched at CES. There is one more model with 4 RAM slots, but they don't even specify.
Which one?
Aorus, Gigabyte Aorus. They announced
the Predator 18 AI also has 4.
Yeah, okay, they do. So yes, but again, this is good to have this, and thanks for enabling like a local brand like us to compete with those big brands. I
do like the Clevo chassis overall too. The subwoofer, the 4 SSD slots, the 4 SCHENKER slots.
That's right.
There's a lot of good things about that. The 2 Ethernet ports, the 2 Thunderbolt 5s. All of that is really good. And the display also very high quality, 4K, 200 hertz. So that's the.
Let's check the chat one more time.
We're going to check the chat for any crucial questions before we head out. But yes, Nippon wants to say, can you please showcase any new AI features?
No. I mean, I do. I am a big fan and early adopter with AI, and I'm looking forward to having more applications that run on your PC. Taking AI out of the cloud. We have compiled a list of applications that leverage either the NPU in your CPU or your NVIDIA GPU. I can give you the link, and you can post it into the video description. And this is just a list we assembled because we have so much silicon dedicated to AI, and we want to make sure people start using it, like with chatbots on your system, image generation, but even more.
Okay.
Yeah, good stuff.
Cool. Let's see here. I see some. I saw a question. Will the hinges be glued or mill screwed on points?
The hinges are screwed. I'm pretty sure they are screwed to the base unit and they're screwed to the LCD. But the LCD is still not easy to replace because the frame of the LCD is glued with adhesive tape to the LCD. So replacing LCDs is not as easy as it is in framework. By the way, shout out to framework, we forgot that. Our XMG NEO with the modular or split mainboard is not competing with framework in terms of modularity. Framework does a really good job at providing even more customization. On the other hand, our power budgets are higher, we have way more performance, we have the latest RTX 50 series and so on. Doesn't compare quite easily, but also again, good stuff from framework with the replaceable screen. We cannot go quite as far as deep in terms of DIY friendliness, otherwise it may impact cost, size, weight, reliability, and like gaps, like having everything being seamless, like the CNC aluminum chassis and so on. But again, we're trying to do what we can with the modular RAM, SSD slots, and other features, and our approach where we say, please open your laptop, upgrade your laptop. We will not void your warranty. We will help you. We have FAQ section for helping you to disassemble your laptop. So we're halfway there again, but good question from the chat over there.
Okay, so very nice. So basically your hinges are screwed on.
Yeah.
and the LCD is glued to the screwed-on hinge.
No, the LCD is glued to the frame which is around the LCD. Or the
Right.
frame, let's say the frame is glued to the LCD. And the LCD is, I think it's screwed to the back cover, but it depends on the model actually.
Okay. All right, but the most important point where the screen connects to the hinge to the base
Yeah.
is nailed
That's
screws.
It's absolutely screwed, yeah.
Screwed, okay. 'Cause
Is it-
some manufacturers have done glue.
What?
And then it comes loose after
No.
a couple years, you know, like
Don't do that.
it's actually more common than you think. I've had laptops on my own fail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've heard certain stories. I cannot believe them. No, it's screwed, and our hinges are pretty stable over time. There was like one model like 10 years ago that had like a hinge that may break after 2 or 3 years because also the plastic broke. But those got replaced after warranty by us, and this was
Wow.
a good story in the end, I guess. Or like.
Well, it shows that you guys stand by your product if you
do.
do that. So, so big shout out to Tom. Thank you, chat, for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. More content from CES coming very soon. Subscribe.